Well, good morning, Joe. Johnson & Johnson giving a lot of updates on its vaccine this morning, including the highly anticipated results on what happens when you give 2 doses of what is now a 1-dose vaccine. Let's start with those results. They spaced these 2 doses out by 2 months, so 8 weeks apart. And what they found was that the protection against symptomatic, moderate to severe / critical COVID in the U.S. rose to 94%. That's in the United States. Globally, they said that protection was 75%. They noted that when they give a second dose, it remained, quote, generally well tolerated. So that's when you're looking at giving 2 shots 2 months apart. They also looked at what happens when you give a booster dose to that first shot 6 months out, and they presented the antibody levels here. And we've seen these data earlier, but essentially showing that those antibody levels rise at 9-fold 1 week after the booster to 12-fold 4 weeks after the booster. Comparing that antibody boost to when you give a boost at 2 months, they rise 4 to 6 times. So J&J perhaps trying to make the point here, if the U.S. is talking about boosting, 6 months is going to do you better than boosting 2 months out, or perhaps doing a primary regimen of 2 shots with the J&J vaccine. This was a huge release of information. They also had 2 additional studies on what happens when they give 1 dose, including an update on the phase 3 results, as well as a very large real-world efficacy study where they essentially tracked almost 400,000 people who got the shot and compared them with people who weren't vaccinated, who had similar characteristics from March to late July. And they said they saw no evidence of reduced effectiveness, including when the Delta variant became predominant. In the phase 3, though, which was global, they did note somewhat lower efficacy against severe and critical disease caused by some variants. And they said they saw the Lambda variant and the Gamma variant included in that update of the phase 3, guys. So quite a lot here. J&J essentially trying to say they've got this 1-dose vaccine that is a pandemic vaccine. The 1 dose still provides lasting protection. But when you look at 2 is better than 1, right, guys.
Hey, Meg, can you explain the distinction, though, between the 94% efficacy that they're saying for the United States relative to the 75? I mean, that's a big delta, for lack of a better word, in this case.
Yeah, there really is, and there were not a lot of details here in this press release, so I can't explain it as of right now. We'll have to wait for more of a publication to understand if there were variants that were causing that difference. We did see that against the Beta variant, the one that was predominant in South Africa. It was quite a lot lower in the original results. We'll have to see if that's
do we know anything about efficacy
here
over time? Meaning, clearly we've seen it with the case of the Pfizer drug, the Pfizer vaccine, the efficacy wanes. Do we believe it wanes with J&J? I mean, I think it's clear we know that it starts. Its starting point is a much lower rate, and you hear about breakthrough cases. Chris Rock just the other day, he apparently had taken J&J. How should people think about that?
Yeah, so with the 1-dose vaccine, the starting point is lower than where you're starting with the mRNA vaccines. But what it is starting to seem clear is that it does not wane to the same degree that we see with the Pfizer or the Moderna vaccines. I think Pfizer said in its 6-month update, you're seeing about a 6 percentage point drop over every 2 months in the efficacy, at least against any case of COVID. With J&J, I don't have an apples-to-apples comparison, but they're trying to make the point here in this release that the protection does remain fairly strong. But there are so many numbers in this release, I would say it's pretty difficult to try to make any kinds of direct comparisons.
Hey, Meg, the timing in terms of the booster for Pfizer would be 6 to 8 months out. And in terms of what Pfizer is talking about for kids, they're still suggesting that you would wait 3 weeks in between the 2 doses. Have there been studies done on either Pfizer or Moderna? You know, Moderna was 4 weeks waiting between the 2 doses there. Does it make a difference how far out? Just because it seems like it definitely does with J&J. It's much more effective at 6 months than 2 months.
Yeah, it's sort of accepted in vaccine science that the further you space the doses, the higher immune response you're going to get. But what happened with Pfizer and Moderna was they were trying to get these results, and they were trying to protect people as quickly as they could as they were running these trials in the middle of the pandemic. So they spaced the doses quite close together. And in fact, Albert Bourla, the CEO of Pfizer, has said that was a risk that Pfizer took doing that 3-week spacing. It seemed to work, but, would it be better when they have the time to kick all the tires and do all the studies and figure out the dosing? Would it be better to space them several months apart, perhaps? And in some ways, that seems like what they're kind of trying to back into with figuring out the dose, or what some people just call the third shot, 6 to 8 months out.
But it's not going to be done before